This is a FlippingJunkie podcast, episode 47. Welcome to the FlippingJunkie podcast. My name is Danny Johnson, former software developer turned house flipper, flipping hundreds of houses. Each week, we bring you interviews, strategies, stories, and motivation to help you get started flipping houses and on your way to becoming your own boss and achieving financial freedom. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's get to it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the FlippingJunkie podcast. Hope you guys had a great week. We've got a great show today. I've got Jim Hutziker on the show, and he's he specializes in MLS properties, getting deals on the MLS. So today we're going to talk about how to beat the competition for great deals on the MLS. A lot of people write off the MLS because they hear of the competition and how difficult it is. But I think everybody should give it a shot, at least in their area, and see how it goes, and really make an effort to find a way to be creative to get deals that other investors aren't taking the time or have the systems in place to get. So we're going to talk about all that today with Jim. He's been a real estate investor in Northern Illinois since 2007. He's also a licensed real estate agent, has been since 2005. Now, he started out as an aggressive new agent helping investors buy and sell their rehab properties. But then he quickly realized he was on the wrong side of that transaction, and that's when he decided to become a real estate investor himself. Now, these days, his primary focus as an investor is residential redevelopment, aka rehabbing, and he primarily works in Chicago and its northwest suburbs. And he's used his local multiple listing service, which is the MLS, to get about 75% of his rehab deals over the last 8 years. So that's a huge percentage of his deals coming from MLS. And since he got into the real estate business, he's been involved in over 450 transactions, and his company does 8 to 10 rehabs at any one time. And though Jim's an active investor, he spends as much time as possible with his 4-year-old twins, Liam and Claire, and his awesome wife who stays at home with them. Now, he told us everything changed when he had kids. Suddenly, to him, he looked at everything differently and literally changed almost everything about his life. He got healthy, he quit drinking, and he lost 50 pounds and never looked back. And he tells us that life's much more enjoyable on this side of your health. So we're going to talk to Jim here in a minute and get started and learn about these things. And just a note from our sponsors, which is Lead Propeller and REI Mobile, software that I've developed for use in my own company and provide other real estate investors to use as well to get leads and deals. And Lead Propeller is a site of generating leads online. So if you want a real estate investor website, check out leadpropeller.com. And then to help convert more of those leads that you get into deals, we've set up REI Mobile, which is a CRM system, cloud-based, web-based system, so you can access all your leads at all times, work with a team, set up follow-up reminders, assign tasks, all that kind of cool stuff. So now these are things that we develop for our own company's use, and we make available so that you can use them in your company as well without having to configure a bunch of stuff in Podio and all that kind of stuff. So if you don't want to mess with setting up a system to do these things, just want to have something that works right away, check out reimobile.com. We're doing a bunch of really cool stuff with automation and stuff like that here in the near future, and constantly working on that. So check it out, leadpropeller.com, reimobile.com, and we'll go ahead and get into the interview with Jim. Great. Hey, Jim. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, man. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. How about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, great. Hey, I gave an intro to everybody before we got on this talk here, but I wanted to find out a little bit more about how you went from being a realtor to an investor and what that was like, if you don't mind sharing that.
Oh, no, it is a great story, and people should hear it because, because I was working with investors first. I started out as an agent, like 2005, 2006 really was when I got started going, but my father was an agent first. And so that's kind of why I got into the business. And, people always thought that I ended up doing well as an agent because my father was in the business, which is, maybe partly true. But the problem I didn't think about when I did get into the business is that, who do you call when you first get into the real estate business as an agent? You call your friends and family, most of which already used my father. So, for me to, and he wasn't out of the business, right? So I couldn't steal his business. And it was kind of like crap. Every sales training I went to said, call your friends, call your family. And of course, I had a small group that didn't use my father. But I was up against, the people you start out with were gone for me. So that's how I found real estate investors. And so I started working with real estate investors. One guy in particular, my first year working with him, I did about 25, 30 deals. These little deals in a crappy suburb west of me, but it taught me a lot. And so it taught me, and I did a few other investors too, but it didn't take me very long to realize I was on the wrong side, of the transaction, where these guys, I'm selling for 120,000. That's the after repaired value, and they're making $30,000 and $40,000. And I'm making a little $3,000 commission. Not that anything wrong with a $3,000 rip, but when he's making 30 on the same one, and I found the deal, and then I sold it, I said, I could do this stuff. And so that's when I started to kind of figure out, how do I do this on my own? And so the problem is, though, I didn't, because I work with investors, I thought I knew what I was doing. But really, all I was doing, I knew how to buy them. I knew how to sell them. But all that stuff in the middle, I didn't know. I wasn't a contractor. I've never been, I'm handy like a guy.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff in the middle.
So much, right? So much. So, yeah. And so I just I didn't know. One of those things, you don't know what you don't know. And so I got a partner, for the financing, for a contractor. It was all wrong. Everything I did was wrong. But it's kind of funny. I really believe all things happen for a reason. As hard as this deal was, we had it for over a year on the market. Now, this was in 2007, 8, when the market was starting to really tank. At least in our market, it was around then. And so I was just watching the not only the profit go away, but now my loss was actually going up because the value was going down. So I desperately went and I'm like, I got to figure something out here. I didn't have the money at the time to come, whatever it was. I thought it was going to be 20, 30. I didn't know. And so desperately, I went and put an offer on a property that I showed to a client. It was updated, but it was very ugly. Very nice lady lived there, owner-occupied property that was paid off. And, in my desperation, I thought, hey, this is a great neighborhood. It was priced at $440,000. I'm in suburban Chicago, so our prices are pretty high here. And this was a house that needed some work. Even though it was updated, she picked the ugliest updates ever. So nobody would want to live in that house except for her. So I went back to it on my own. I went a couple times. I ended up going about 3 times on my own because I didn't know what I was doing, really. And so I ended up making an offer on this house for $300,000. It was listed at $440,000. Now, I didn't have any money. I put $5,000 in earnest money on the contract. I didn't have that. I didn't have the rest of the money anyway. And I didn't have a proof of funds because I didn't have any money or any private lenders. I had no business doing this. I actually made the offer expecting them to reject it, but I was desperate. I knew I was going to lose money in this deal. I didn't know how I was going to come up with it. And, if there's a will, there's a way. And so I submitted this offer, and I did go to the property several times. So what I didn't realize is I was planting lots of seeds with the seller, like, hey, this guy, we might get an offer, And so, in their head, they're coming down and down and down in price. And I didn't know that was going on because I was new. And so in the end, the agent, the agent was not very pleased with my offer. And he's literally, like swearing at me on the phone. But I just hey, man, just go present the offer because he has to. And they countered back at $420,000. Anyway, they came back at $20,000 increments, all the way down to $300,000 when they accepted my offer. And I was as shocked as anybody that they accepted my offer. And the agent couldn't believe it either. But the problem was now they wanted $5,000 in earnest money. And I was supposed to come up with the rest of the money too, neither of which I had. But again, if there's a will, there's a way. If you have a deal that good, I don't care how new you are, you will find the money. You will find somebody to source the money and become your partner on that deal. And that's exactly what I did. I found somebody to become an equity partner, which is not ideal, but hey, I had no choice. And so there was no money. The money didn't cost any money except for 50% of the profit in the back end. So it was expensive money because we made about $70,000 on that deal. But what it did is it allowed me to make some money. And crazy, you can't make this stuff up. I lost $36,000 in my first deal, 35 and change, and I made about 35 and change on my second one. You can't make it up.
Wow.
And the craziest thing is, on Thursday, I closed on the one where I made the money. On Friday, the very next day, the other one finally closed, and I lost it. They about washed each other out, and I never looked back. But I mean, you can't make that stuff up.
But the education.
Crazy. They closed literally one day apart. I owned the first one for like a year and 7-8 months. It was crazy how it worked out, but it did. And I've never looked back. But yeah, right. So what did I do then? I'm like, okay, now I need to get educated because obviously there's a lot that I didn't know. And I just got this sick deal here that made me a bunch of money, even though it washed out on the other one. Still, there was an opportunity here. And so that's what taught me what was possible in the MLS. So, awesome. Yeah, and I've been doing it. I've been using the MLS since then. So about 8 years as my primary deal source for my rehab business. I get about 75% of my rehabs out of the MLS.
Nice. Yeah, I worked MLS probably 2008, 2009, 2010, maybe all the way up to about 2011 or 12 when things were picking up. And, I and probably people listening either experience this themselves or have heard other people talk about the fact that the competition goes up, and it just became a case where I'm spending all day looking at and making offers on properties and not getting any of them, and became the return on investment for my time was not there. And so what kind of, and I'm sure that assumption has probably kept a lot of people from even getting into doing this. And what do you typically tell people that tell you that there's too much competition in my area to get deals off the MLS?
I hear two things constantly. I hear that. I always hear there's no good deals in the MLS. That's the first. I hear that constantly. It doesn't matter what kind of market, high inventory, low inventory, doesn't matter. I hear there's no good deals in the MLS, or I hear the MLS is too competitive. Which do you think it's too competitive for all the non-deals? I mean, really, it's too competitive because there is good deals in there. But you just got to, like anything, it just there is. And the reason I was able to master this early in my investing career is because I was an agent first. Because the biggest key here is the communication, the dialogue you have with the agent. You don't get to talk to the seller when you're using the MLS, which I actually love, because some of those seller meetings are a little awkward and they're longer than they need to be. Sometimes you got to spend an hour, 2 hours with them if it's an emotional sale, if somebody died. It's like it's draining, and that's time consuming too. And I don't love it. I mean, I'm good at that, but I don't love doing it. So the MLS just makes more sense to me. And the key there is what you say to the agent, because you have to plant these seeds with the agent. Because now, picture this, okay? You may not know this, everybody listening. The average agent in the National Association of Realtors does 3 deals a year. 3. Yeah, wow. I know, 3. It's crazy. And another statistic that's important to note here is that 80% of all property sold gets listed in the MLS. So most deals that get sold in the U.S. get put into an MLS. And so it's just a matter of planting the right seeds with the agent, because they don't know what to say, because most of them are inexperienced. I mean, heck, an agent doing really good is doing 10 deals a year. That's 3 times the average. And so that's still, they're not even doing 1 deal a month there. And they don't have the proper dialogues in most cases to effectively communicate what needs to be communicated to the seller. So all I'm doing when I call the agent, I've submitted thousands of offers at this point in my career, and we get about 10% of the detailed, structured offers we put out. So this is the opposite of offer bot. This is not throwing out 100 offers, seeing what sticks and not calling the agent ever. Literally, this is evaluating the property, you going to see it, sending a team member to go see it, running a property repair estimate sheet on it, seeing what your numbers are, coming up with an after repaired value, coming up with a maximum allowable offer, and making that maximum allowable offer. However, in that process, after you go to the house, you always want to call the agent, and all you're doing is building rapport. It doesn't even matter. You're not talking about the property. I will let them, if they're a talker, let them talk. If they're not, you got to kind of ask some probing questions about the house, or whatever you can to get them talking. All I'm doing there is building rapport, because it's your job as the buyer's agent, or the buyer for that matter, to convey the information to the seller, or to the agent to take back to the seller, that lets them know you are the offer they should take. And on estate sales, which are my favorite sale in the MLS, because oftentimes they're just cosmetically dated but well cared for houses. Half the time on estate sales, I am not the highest cash offer, and they accept mine over the other ones. And that is because of the seeds I plant. That's it. And more of it's just educating, because the agent probably doesn't know either. Some deals, like here, I'll explain it. I had this in a market right now. Our inventory is very low. People can't get deals anywhere. In a private seller market, MLS, a lot of investors are struggling to find deals in our market right now. And I got a lot of irons in the fire, just like any entrepreneur does. And so we sold a couple of my rehab deals last month, and I didn't realize there was nothing in my pipeline. Now I got a couple crews that work for me, because we do about 8 rehabs at a time. We're not crazy big, but we do enough. And if I don't have work for them, they will go find it elsewhere, and I might not be able to get them back. So I need to keep work going, so they stay. They stick with me, because they are independent contractors. They don't work directly for me. I just give them lots of work, so they keep working for me. And so anyway, the point of the story is I was like, crap. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to put all my irons down. Let me just go. I need 3 properties. I'm going to work the MLS until I get 3 properties, as long as it takes. And it took me about 9 days total. I had 3 properties under contract, and I was done, because that's all I needed. My time now is more important to spend with my kids and my family. So doing, like I used to do 14, 15 rehabs at a time, even with good contractors, my phone rings a lot. Anybody's phone will ring a lot with that. And I just wasn't interested in having that many phone calls anymore. So I had my 3 and I shut it down. That's what's great about this MLS stuff is, you can turn the strategies on and off as you need them. Or if you're wholesaling the MLS, just leave them on. I had a buddy of mine that sells me deals that are in the MLS. It's a little annoying to me, but hey, I can still pay his price. He doesn't gouge me too much. Usually he's looking for 3,000 or 5,000. Usually I'm cool with that. But they're in the MLS that I could have bought myself. But, I can't watch all deals all the time. And when he brings them to me, I'm like, could I do it? Do I want a 9th deal? Sure. And I'll buy it because if it's a good enough deal. And he just brought me one that I made almost $100,000 on. Now that's rare in the MLS, but it was a fantastic deal. It was much better than I even thought it was. So, either way, where's it? Oh yeah. So the properties, the 3 properties. So 2 of them were brand new listings. This is where 2 were brand new listings and 1 was on the market for 44 days. And that's the one I went after first. The one that was on the market for 44 days, that is, I called the agent, and this is funny. So this goes into the agents don't know, and you should never listen to what the listing agent says about what the seller will take. They never know. The seller never shares it with them. Because as agents, they feel like most agents are shady. That's just, we have a bad reputation, similar to attorneys, and I'm a licensed agent still, so I can say that. But they and most of them, they don't know what they're doing. So that's why it's not that most agents are shady. It's that they don't know what they're doing, and a lot of them are just hoping they get a paycheck as quick as possible. So anyway, so I call the agent and I say, hey, I like the house. I'm just building my rapport with him, just trying to see what he would tell me. And much to my surprise, this house already had 4 offers on it that the seller rejected. Now, I will tell you from my experience in teaching all my students the MLS stuff that most people will. That's it. They're like, oh, they're unreasonable. They're not gonna accept my offer. It's that when I hear that there's 3 or 4 offers, I get excited about it. Why? Because it's just a matter of timing, right? What does Einstein say? You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect the same result. That's like the definition of insanity. So if you get 3 or 4 offers that are all in the same range, but you want $20,000 or $30,000 more, is it realistic to think after you get your 4th or 5th offer that's going, they're all in the same range that you're going to get the price? Either don't sell it or you have to take another offer. And at that point, it's just a matter of being at the right place at the right time. So that was the deal with that one. I actually came in, it was listed at $250. I came in at $225. He told me she just rejected an offer the week prior the month prior at $235. And so she said, will you come to $235? Because that's the number she wants to get. And I said, I can't. I told you I'm presenting my highest and best. I cannot pay a penny more. If you came back at this is a key dialogue. If you came back at $225 and $1, I would say no. Because that way they know that you're not paying over your money. I said, I'm already pushing my limit. I want this house. I like this neighborhood. And so then she, came back at $230 and then eventually accepted by $225. So that was a great deal. It'll be, it won't be a home run, but we look for about a 15% return on the back end, what we're selling it for minimum. So, if I sell a house just to make it easy, if I sell a house at the after repaired value, is $400,000, I'm going to be looking for a minimum of $60,000, right? That's minimum, 345, whatever. So, and that's very easy to do in any MLS, in any market, by the way, as long as you know your numbers and you act fast enough. The other 2 deals, now that one was sitting on the market and I paid, about 10% under list price. Now the next 2 deals, the reason that these are interesting that I got them all together at the same time is one I paid the list price for on the first day it was listed, and one I paid $10,600 over the list price on the first day it was listed, and they actually both listed on the same day. So it's just a matter of feeling out the agent. Again, calling the agent to see, hey, what's going on? How much activity? Usually there's a lot. Sometimes there's none, but usually there's a lot. And you'll be shocked at what the agent will tell you, because most agents' goal is to get this thing sold and closed as quick as possible so they can get a commission check. It's just a fact. So, without them being unethical, they might tell you more information than they should, and they think they're being, ethical in their mind, but they're really giving, like a guy like me, you tell me anything, it's dangerous because I'm going to use it against you. And, and I will tell you, it is very rare for an agent not to tell me something I can use against, meaning for me to win the sale. I'm not saying I'm going to be malicious about it, but I'm asking if they're willing to share information, and I'm going to take it and use it. And so, like on the deal that I paid over, what I did there is I knew that I offered the agent the commission. She wasn't interested in taking it. Said, I don't want to do dual agency. I said, okay. So I go down. I'm an agent. I just put myself down as a buyer's agent. I don't really care about that. But now I take that into consideration when I'm making my offer. So I offered $10,500, $10,600 over. But the reason I offered that exact amount over is because that's where the agent alluded to that would take the deal. Now, I could have paid $325 for this deal because the crazy thing is they way underlisted it. This house is worth $500,000, needs about $85,000 in repair. And I was willing to go up to $325 if need be because it's in my neighborhood. And I love working at, I live in a decent neighborhood. And it's funny, I always say I'm going to go to them more when I buy them close to my house, and I never do. In fact, there was one last year that I drove by every day. It was on the main street that I used to get to my office. It was like 1 block south, and I'm like, oh, I'll be at this one all the time. 3 times. I was there when I bought it in the middle once because I made myself, and then when I sold it. That's really pretty much every property. So because every time I'm going to the office, I'm running late for something, so I don't have time to stop. Doesn't matter that the house is right there. but anyway, right. So that one I offered over, and again, the agent told me where I needed to be. She, didn't tell me directly, but alluded to, and so I said, I want this house. I'll do what it takes to get it. And I said, here's my offer of $295,000. She's like, that should do it. So I was like, oh, fantastic, thank you, because I would have offered more. But and the other one, now this one was listed at $325,000. Now, mind you, I think I said this already, but if I didn't, I am in suburban Chicago. It's one of the more expensive markets in the country. There's more expensive markets, of course, but we're pretty high up there. And so when I say these prices, these are what I'm buying them for. So anyway, this was at $325,000, and again, the agent there not interested in the commission, and this was paying 3%. So I was able to pay the list price here at $325,000, and so to me that's about $315,000 to $350,000, I believe, but about $10,000 worth of commission. So, in that property, both of these had multiple offers. Now, that one, the planting the seeds with the agent was very important about the higher offers that they had. Because on the other deal, I was the highest offer, so it wasn't a problem. But this other one, I was not the highest offer. So I couldn't go higher, and they tried to get me up to the other 2 offers, which they always do. They say, hey, we want your offer because what you do when I plant the seeds, all kinds of seeds I plant. With the offer, you put a cover letter, just explaining you're, a professional residential redeveloper. Make sure use letterhead for your company. If you don't have some, get some pretty cheap to do that these days. And, Vista print or whatever. And you just put, it could be a paragraph. Don't overthink it and make a huge page of it, but just let them know that, and if you're new, you use one of your affiliations. Use if you're a member of a group or a program or a mastery course or whatever, just say, the group of investors I'm with have done X amount of deals and, whatever that makes you say, whatever you can use to sound good. I just say I've been doing this 8 years. And you let them know that you sell all your houses, especially estate sales. This is critical that you sell all your houses to young couples and young families. And if you don't say that, but in my market, the only people that are paying top retail value for fully rehabbed houses are young couples and young families. So it's true, and I could say that, and they love to hear that another family could potentially live there for 40 or 50 years, just like their parents did when they were raised there. It's a huge, so I'm playing on the emotional heartstring of the seller, and it's true those. But here's the thing. Any one of those offers is going to sell it to the same people I am, whoever's money is the greenest. But they don't convey the same message, and that's why their higher offer doesn't get accepted. And here's another key part. When you go to these houses, you have to be able to look through them in 10 minutes and fill out your property repair estimate sheet, because you might see 4 or 5 properties a day, depending on your day or how many properties you're buying. But either way, it's a quick process. But so you have to do it, have an inspector come with you, have your contractor or whatever, because it's best to be able to waive the inspection, especially on new listings, because if you would say, if you accept my offer, we can just schedule the closing. Because the other offers, whether they're higher or not, are not going to waive the inspection. And so what they often do, and this is true, and all you're doing is educating the agent so he can relay it to the seller, is that their plan might be to overpay for it now, but once they have you under contract in the inspection that I know they didn't waive, because you say that because you know they didn't, they're probably going to ask you for a huge $30,000 or $40,000 inspection credit. And they say, oh, is that what they do? I'm like, yeah, that is a strategy some investors use. And so I'm not saying those guys do, but I know this is the most I could pay right here, and I get my work done as cheap as anybody. But I'm not the only guy. So let's assume all 3 of these guys, me and the other 2, that we all get our work done for the same price. I know I can't pay a penny over $325 and make a profit that makes sense in the back end of this deal. It would be way too tight, and you shouldn't do it. So do you think those guys are they dumb and are they uneducated and don't know? Or do you think their plan is to ask you for their repair credit? And look, if in 2 weeks you're calling me saying, hey, you were right, that guy asked me for a $40,000 inspection credit, and now my offer looks better, well, I don't have unlimited funds. I will have probably gone and spent this on another property at that point. Or if I didn't, I might say, hey, you know what? he's right. I can't pay what I thought either anymore. But right now, I can pay you $325 and I can close in 2 weeks. Very powerful dialogue to use because it sets it shows you're an authority figure. It shows you know what you're doing. It's, hey, you stood your ground. You cannot move off your number. You give them your highest shot, and you cannot win or lose. You cannot move off that number. So you go in on a listing with your best shot when it's brand new if you want to get it, because that's your only shot in most cases to even get it. And so those dialogues, and just education again about how to plant seeds, and the cover letter. And some people don't want to use a cover letter because they don't have a lot of experience. Well, fine. When you're calling and building report the agent, make sure you convey the information about who you sell it to, because it's extremely important, especially again on estate sales. In REO, obviously doesn't matter. They don't really care. But on an estate sale, that's very important. And so planting those seeds. Another thing, you never, I think I said this already, but I want to make sure. You never listen to what the listing agent says. They never know what the seller's going to take, ever. They never know. I mean, I've used the agent before. Like, I've literally offered the agent the commission. He took it, saying, okay, I'll represent you and the seller both, which I'm fine with. There was a property listed at $299. And I offered $245, and he's like, "Oh, I can't believe I wasted my time." And I wrote the offer, by the way. My office sent him the offer, so he didn't even have to do it. We put his name on it. We put his agent ID. He did nothing. I just wanted a leg up on the deal, which I didn't get anyway because the guy turned out to be kind of a jerk. But anyway, the point is that he was getting a commission from my side of the deal, 2.5%, and he's like, "Oh, I wasted my time." And what do you? They accepted my offer, right? They had higher offers that either backed. I don't know what happened. I didn't ask because the guy was a jerk. But I got the offer at $245. It was like 10 or 12 days after it listed, even though my offer went in right away. But he's saying, no, they'll never accept this, never accept it. So the agents never ever know. Because also in 3 days in the market, this is a couple years ago now, but this just shows you. I mean, the market was busy. It wasn't a slow market in my area, and it listed for $199. And when I was there, I saw mold in the crawl space, which it has to be disclosed if they're aware of it. People are not aware of it somehow, but it was pretty apparent there. Either way, I informed the agent saying, "Hey, this thing's got mold. This is not financeable. I mean, you could smell it, you could see it. If an appraiser sees it, they are not financing this deal. I'm just letting you know. I'm giving you a cash price of $134. This is on a $199 listing, and I bought it in 3 days. So just because it lists higher than you can pay in the first 3 days or first day or whatever, don't think, oh, I got to wait 30 or see if it sells. No. So everybody has seen those properties that sell for a lot less. Well, that's because of again, education, making sure the agent knows what's going on. On this particular deal, if it had no mold, that wouldn't have worked. So I wouldn't have been able to get it. But you still have to go to the property to find out, to run a quick evaluation on it. So either way, but those are 3 deals in an extremely low inventory market that, it's just they're all, one I paid 10% less, one I paid list price, and one I paid, 10,000 over, because those were the situations that permitted what for me to get the deal. And, again, calling the agent, talking to him. I mean, building rapport with the agent is so important. I can't even tell you, because you're just trying to get them to like you. So they tell the seller that, this guy is legit. He's the real deal. We should take his offer.
Right, and so that was a ton of information. I think that was
I tend to do that. I got on a roll.
20,
so sorry,
20,
everybody.
No. I mean, 20 minutes of a ton of information coming out. So I want to sum up basically what I got out of that, and based on the experience that I've had with doing it. So typically, what I've done and other people do is they'll go out and look at these properties. They'll come up with a number, make the offer. They'll call the agent and say, "I'd like to make an offer, be a cash offer of this amount for that property," and then that's the end of it. And so you hear back, "Oh, they rejected it," probably just even through an email. They won't even call you back. And so that was how that's approached. Now, what you're saying is that's not good. You're dealing with an agent that likely doesn't know how to sell your offer to the seller, and they have these preconceived notions about what they're willing to take, what the seller is actually willing to take, and most of the time it's wrong. So they think, "Oh, there's no way they'll ever accept that." But you need to convince them that your offer is strong because of the different things that you offer, which is like the cash offer, the fact that the deal will be done, that what you're doing, and they're going to get paid, and there's not going to be a bunch of problems, because that's one of the worries that the agents have, is that they're going to get into this, have to deal with all this communication and stuff that's not going to work out, and at the end, it's going to fall apart, and they got to go out and find somebody again. And so you give them the benefits, but they've got to be able to convey that then to the seller so that the seller accepts your offer, instead of them just going to the seller saying this is the offer.
Exactly.
Without any other
Yep,
information.
exactly. I mean, and if you don't convey all that information, which again is just basic education about what this process is like, because they don't know, right? The agent doesn't do estate sales all the time because there's no such thing as an estate sale agent. You'll get them, from time to time as an agent because people will die that or whatever. But that is so. But the point is that they don't know how that process works, and they always think that the seller's going to go for the highest amount. That's what everybody thinks, including the other investors, and that is not the case. I said, 50% of the time, I'm not the highest cash offer, but because of all those seeds that I plant that you just mentioned, that is how they accept my offer over the other ones when they could take a higher offer.
Do you use anything else to make your offer stand out? Do you do a higher earnest money amount or anything like that?
I use 5,000 is what I use. Again, my market, I'm buying houses that are like, my average purchase price is bumped up. Actually, it's around 250 now. So I use 5,000. I never.
About 10%.
What's that?
Right. Oh, that's about 20%.
No,
right?
5,000 on 250. So that would be 2.5%.
Oh, two. Yeah.
But
Math
anyway,
doing
that I never get balked at that. It's the only time I have to put up more is if it is an REO deal and they want 10%, and then I just match whatever they're looking for. But I never have resistance at 5,000. And so I in fact, once in a while, we've been putting 2,500 to test it, and I haven't got any resistance on that either.
Okay. And so how do you determine which properties on the MLS you're going to look into and make offers on?
It is set up, it's all by search criteria. So it's all automatic. And the main thing we use is the keyword search. Keyword search pulls any specific word or phrase out of the remarks that you put in there. So we use, so beyond that, we do geographic, right? We pick an area, neighborhood, town, zip code, whatever, depending on how dense your market is. I mean, even down to in the MLS now, you can draw a map. There's a map feature where you could literally circle streets. And so say I want to watch one neighborhood within a town, I could watch one in particular neighborhood. And I do that with a couple townhome developments that I know sell really well. And there's lots of older people that have lived there for 30 years now that are, dying. And so I'm buying those, and I know I can sell them very quickly, and they're easy interior rehabs. But I don't do any attached housing otherwise. So I only do a couple little neighborhoods because I know how good that they're going to sell, and I know a lot of them come up right now that need work. But where are we going with that? I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, the criteria. So do you have certain keywords that work really well to find?
Oh, yeah. Anything. So I actually saw desperate one time, believe it or not. That was in there. But I have all kinds of keywords that, for different ones for estate sales over REOs. On estate sales, estate sale is one. I put estate in there because usually if it says estate sale, motivated, that's in there. Offset. Nursing home, original owners, needs work, TLC, handyman special. Let's see what else. On the REO stuff, they always usually say REO, which stands for real estate owned by the bank, in case anybody doesn't know who's listening. But REO just means foreclosure. So foreclosure, corporate owned, and all corporate owned is a hedge fund bought a pool of mortgages that one of them went defaulted and went to foreclosure. So now the owner is not a bank, so it's not bank owned, it's a corporation, which is a hedge fund. Same thing as an REO or a foreclosure, but we put corporate owned in there too. And then as is a big one for that. You can even put as is in the for estate sales. I mean, and you could look, if you look, just in researching your market, look at what agents are using. I mean, there's a lot of, common ones that are used in every market, but, there's other market specific words. So look at all the listings, especially the low end listings in your market. And if you see common phrases, those are the ones you use, and so that's all I did. I see a phrase. I saw desperate seller. Who uses that? But I saw it once. I've never seen it again, but I now have it in my criteria because it was, if somebody writes desperate again, I want to see that listing. So
yeah, if I'm gonna do a wholesale I think I ought to put desperate in there because then you have everybody.
Yeah, seriously.
Want to make an offer.
That would be a good one. I mean, you'll at least get attention right away.
Right. So what else do you do? I mean, so you have these. What are they called? The hot
sheets.
Hot sheets, or whatever, set up to find these keywords. And they come up, and so you get an email saying, hey, you got these new properties today that match those keywords. How do you filter them? How do you make an offer, look at each of those, or how do you go through those and determine which ones to work?
Well, okay. Let's start with the foreclosures because that's a big part of the market. Well, not as much anymore, but still, there's still plenty of foreclosures to get listed. And so I look. Most foreclosures are not going to take less than 5% in the first 30 days, no matter what. And a lot of them list where they think they're going to get the price. So there's many banks now that won't even move off their price for at least 14 days. And some will a little bit, but if I can't pay within 5% of an REO right now, I don't even go because I know there's no chance of that working no matter what. And so I kind of, evaluate from what it needs. I give it a chair evaluation every property. And so if there's pictures, I take a look and see and kind of like, is this even worth going to? If it's an estate sale, the first thing I look at is a tax record. To see, did they have a mortgage on it? If it's a dated, dilapidated house, but I pull up, they took a mortgage last year for like full value, I don't even go because the odds are they don't have the equity somewhere else to pay off what I could actually pay for it. So they're listed at what it costs to actually sell the property, not what they need out of it, including the closing costs versus what the property is actually worth. So that's how I determine estate sales. I look at that before I'll even go because that tells you whether you should even go or not. If there's a low mortgage, where they took it 15 years ago, that's still worth it. Obviously, you're looking for one that has no mortgage on it. That's ideal. But that's how I evaluate estate sales because the price that they're listed for is not relevant to me. It used to be when I was getting started, but I realized that price doesn't matter anymore because the agent might have sold them on a price that they didn't even expect anyway. So when an offer comes, they can be out of it in 2 weeks. They'll take a lot less. And again, 32% is my record on that. But so I basically every property comes through, I do a chair evaluation. If there's pictures, if there's not, I do tax record stuff. If it's an REO, all I do is say, hey, can I pay 5%? And oftentimes when you build a great strategy for the MLS is you build relationships with these smaller REO agents, guys doing like 15 deals a year or less. Those are the guys you can call and get on the phone immediately, and you let them double on the deal, meaning they're already getting the seller side of the commission. You give them the buyer side of the commission, and they will bring you deals before they even hit the market because they want to double on the next deal too. So when you see those MLS deals that sell within an hour or a minute, after being on the REO MLS deals, well, the guy sold it. That was a relationship that REO agent had with an investor that sold like that. But most investors can't buy more than a handful of deals at a time, 2, 3, 5, maybe. So because students always say, well, don't they already have relationships? Yes, they do. But when they call them, they say, oh, no, sorry, I can't do it right now because they already have 5 or whatever. What do they do now? Well, if they have another investor to call, they'll call you. So you still got to build relationships with these REO agents because they will bring you off the market deals before they have to list them all. But, especially when the list price that you could, he thinks you could pay or she thinks you could pay, they say, hey, this thing's listed at 220. I think you could pay 220. So I'm going to, of course, they're going to be able to double on the deal. And then, they listed at noon. At 12:01, we submitted a full price offer, accepted like that because, it's full price, it's cash, and it's ready as is. So we just scheduled the closing. So, but that's so we don't just go to every property. And once you get your criteria down and your neighborhoods, you'll know pretty quickly, as soon as it comes on, is it something that'll make sense once you look at, the tax record even, or where it's priced. Like that one was priced way under. It made no sense to me. In fact, I called a couple agents, in that market that, I know it well too, but I'm like, hey man, am I missing something here? Like, it's just friends of mine that I earn the business that I know that work in that area. And I'm like, can you evaluate this? What do you think this is worth when it's done? And everybody said, they all said the same thing. So I was like, all right, I'm just making sure I'm not an idiot here because it was like way underlisted and our inventory levels are so low. I can't believe somebody listed it that low. I mean, you could have priced it at $299. It was $279 and you'd still be under $300 if that was your goal to keep it under. It just didn't make any sense to me. And again, I could have paid $325 for that thing and still made a really decent profit in the back end.
Wow. Yeah, nice. So what do you recommend for people that aren't agents themselves?
Well, anybody can get, a list of properties from, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, whatever. Redfin's fantastic. Redfin, in fact, gives you updates every 15 minutes on new listings. It's awesome. I mean, most MLSs will do about, you can usually run 6 to 8 searches. For one search, you can set it to update 6 to 8 times a day. So that's one way. You can get an agent to send you those. But, you should really, if you're a serious real estate investor, you should really have your own MLS access. And so you can get your real estate license and get it. You don't have to be an agent. You just become a licensed agent. You don't have to sell as an agent, but now you have your license and you can get MLS access to any MLS in your state once you're licensed in that state. Now, if you're not willing to go through that, because everybody becomes a broker now, it's about 90 hours, costs about $400. You could become an assistant, and I use my air quotes there because you're an assistant to an agent. And I'm a licensed agent. I have a full-time assistant that works for me. She has full access to my MLS portal. She does all my listing data. Anything that goes in there, she does for me. So she has full access to everything. But if I wanted to control her access, I could let her not see my listings. I could let her not see my client list. I could restrict her to only be able to run and save searches. And that's all you need to do. You need to be able to run a search and save a search, and that's it. So when you set up all these searches, now they'll get emailed to you automatically. So then when you see the property come to you in your email, like, oh, awesome, go log in, run a new search to run comps for that property, because that's not going to be a saved search that you have. Now, you can run comps on Trulia, Zillia, all have those features now, but the detail they give there, and it's not as easy to use as what the MLS will allow, using inside the MLS. So becoming an assistant is a way most people don't want to get licensed, get access. And so I have a couple buddies that are wholesalers that I buy from here. They do not want a license. One guy pays $1,000 to the agent, and also the MLS dues for an assistant, which is about $360 a year. So it costs him $1,360. The other guy's the exact same thing and pays $1,500 to a guy. Plus the MLS dues. So he pays about $1,860 a year. And they have full access to the MLS now. And both guys make over $500,000 a year, mind you. So that's just the cost of doing business. If you think $1,800 is a lot, $1,500 is whatever, that's just they make a lot of money, and this is one of their costs of doing business. And they specifically don't want to get licensed because you have to disclose your license. When you're talking about real estate, like my buyer line reads my company name, LLC, Illinois licensed agent. So that's my buyer line, whatever LLC I'm buying under, and then Illinois licensed agent. I have to disclose that I'm a licensed agent. If I'm talking to a private seller, on my business card, it says I'm a licensed agent. It's very little small, but it's there because I have to let them know that I am a licensed agent. That's the only downfall. Now, it's never gotten in my way. I've never not gotten a deal I wanted because of that. But mind you, I use the MLS to get 75% of my deals. So the other deals I buy are usually from wholesalers. I do some private seller marketing, but I pulled that back because I don't do as many deals anymore. So the private seller marketing costs money, and then it takes more of my time because I got to either call them, go meet with them, send somebody to meet with them, and you know what? I get plenty of deals out of the MLS. So right now, I just use the MLS for most of my deals, and then as my wholesaler buddies bring me deals, I take them or not. I usually do take them because they bring me about maybe 10 a year, maybe. And depending on the deal, but like I said, so those are really the two ways I buy properties right now. But mostly the MLS, because what the way that my business works now, when I free up a property, I used to, once I put it under contract with the retail buyer, as soon as I did, I would go contract a new MLS deal and schedule it to close the week after the closing with my retail sale for my previous rehab. The only problem is now financing has gotten to be a nightmare. I would take the 2007 and 8 financing terms back all day, or underwriting, I should say. The underwriting that went on in 2007 and 8 that everybody hated back then, I would love to have that again, because that would be a dream compared to what we're seeing right now. We see deals fall apart in the 11th hour all the time. It's very common. It's like all of a sudden underwriting sees something they didn't see before. We're like a week before the closing. They have not issued the clear to close, and they pull the file. It's happened to me several times on my deals. I've seen it happen several times. It's very common in today's market. So you cannot go lock up another deal. And, if you don't have the money available, you can't lock up the money because the closing is not guaranteed on the closing date or at all. A lot of times they get pushed a week or 2 weeks. So I have to wait till the closing happens. I have the check in hand. I pay back the private investor. I take the profit. Now I go shopping for another deal because I have the money available again. And so the MLS allows me to be able to turn it on and off. Like I can just go, bam, like I got 3 deals last month because I needed 3 deals. I turned all my systems back off again because I'm good for now. And then I'll go back out and do it again when I need more deals. And so, and if you don't stop, or you're a much bigger rehabber than I am, because I only do, maybe 30 deals a year. If you're doing 130 or whatever, you just never turn them off. I mean, it constantly works. So yes, am I missing deals right now? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not looking for them because I don't want any. My life now is, since my kids were born, they're about 4.5 now. My lifestyle has changed from, all work driven and money to how much money do I need to survive so I can spend as much time with my kids as possible, right? Now, I still, do okay, but still the point is that the driving force is no longer, money. It's my kids and my wife and hanging out with them and traveling with them. And so that's what I like to do.
Awesome. So what do you do? I mean, obviously, a lot of times you'll make an offer, and they won't accept it right away. What do you have in place to handle follow-ups with that kind of thing?
Yeah, so that is a huge key. A huge part to getting deals in the MLS is follow-up. You'll only get about 10% of the deals you put offers on the front end, right? 10%. Those are detailed, structured offers. These are, again, not offer bot style offers. And so the other 90%, you got to put in the follow-up, right? And so originally, the MLS now, and there's just a lot more technology, we used to follow up manually 30, 60, 90, 120 days. All like, checking, my system would check constantly to see if it would come back on the market during that time. Now you could set up an independent hot sheet for each property with the property address. If there's any status change to it, it will email you. So now we see as soon as they come back on the market, because 90% of the offers you make, you won't get. Now, they don't all go under contract. Some of them don't accept anything because all the offers were too low because they're overpriced. But so yeah, they get put into a hot sheet that we watch them until, if they do price changes on ones that they don't accept any offers, well, we resubmit automatically. All we do is, change the date, change the closing date, change the offer date, and resubmit the exact same offer again. So that's for the properties that never go under contract. And the properties that reactivate, that is key, especially for foreclosures. If you can get your offer in within hours of it reactivating, which is what we do, and if you have these hot sheets set up properly, that's what you do too. And as long as your offer is within reason, and usually it's got to be within 5% of their list price, mind you. It's not, especially at this point, if it's 90 days, there is a little bit of room there, more out of the 5% range under their current list price. Because what I mean is, if it went under contract 90 days prior, and on the 91st day or whatever day, past that point, it comes back on the market, that was usually due to them accepting a 203K home nightmare loan. I mean, home renovation loan from a retail buyer that just didn't work out, because most of them don't work out. So now most asset managers won't even deal with those loans because they're such a pain. So they will not accept an offer that has a 203K on it, depending on how bad the property is. And so since most of them don't come together, if the asset manager decides to take it because they're trying to make themselves look good, because those retail buyers pay the most money for the property, they need to get that property sold very quickly if it comes back on the market 90 days later. And people say, how often do these properties come on 90 days later? Well, with 203K loans, a lot, because they're a minimum. If things go well, it's 60 days. 60 days is a renovation loan gone well. And so most of them don't go well, and it takes much longer. And by 90 days, they're either closed or back on the market. So the back on the market ones, if you get there in a couple hours rather, and you submit your offer, call the agent, say, I had this offer in, maybe they're an agent you work with, and they're the dual agent, maybe they're not. Hey, I had an offer 90 days ago. I'm going to submit the exact same offer again. I can close it in a week, because because now that this asset manager had this property in the contingent category, now off their active list. Well, now it's back on the active list, which they don't want. It makes them look bad. They need it back under contract as soon as possible and closed as soon as possible. So the key to that is getting your offer in quickly. They know you know your stuff. They know you're watching the property. They appreciate your diligence, and they accept your offer like that. I mean, it happens all the time, and not just at 90 days, but 90 days is the key to getting those deals quickly. But that happens to be at 30 days, 60 days. And so, and I'll give you guys a tip here too. On like the properties, the first look program, because Fannie Mae's Home Path has changed now, so that's no longer what they call it. But they still have these programs where it's only investors they only want to sell to owner occupants for the first 14 days or whatever. And I think they might still call it first look, because I don't know if that was part of the Home Path or not. But either way, there are still banks that will do that 14 days only owner occupants. What you want to do there, and a lot of times you have to upload those onto a website that doesn't even go to the listing agent. Fine. What you want to do is call the listing agent, find out if they can double in the deal, because about 5% of banks don't let them double in the deal. If they can't, doesn't matter. But then you submit an offer to them, full-on offer, right? Everything, proof of funds, articles of incorporation that show whoever's signing can sign on behalf of the LLC or whatever, and you email it to them. You basically force it down their throat. Now they're going to say, hey, we can't accept this. I say, I know, but you guys are probably going to accept an owner-occupied offer. This house is a piece of crap, and for them to go through with it, it's not likely. So if it goes under contract in the first 14 days, say it goes under contract on day one with an owner-occupant. Well, say it stays under contract for 21 days, and then it comes back on the market. Well, now guess what? even though it was under contract the whole time, it's still past the guideline of 14 days, and they can actually accept an investor offer now. So what happens? What happens there is, and it's happened to me several times over the years, the agent will call me, as soon as the deal's falling apart, because they don't want to relist that deal and get all these idiots that make offers that are crazy and call them on the phone and waste their time. They know you're diligent, they know you're sharp because of what you did, and they say, hey man, is this offer still good? I say, yeah, of course it is. And so it doesn't even come back on the market. They switch it from contingent with the other buyer to contingent with you. Nobody else ever had a shot at that. So that's a great little tip there on those properties that they're only doing for owner-occupant stuff. I don't see it as much anymore because there's not as many foreclosures anymore, but still, it's a great tip for those type of properties. Don't listen, everybody says, hey, well, it says 14 days. I have to wait till day 15. And, that's what everybody thinks. So think outside of the box a little bit, be a little more aggressive, and, get yourself some deals that nobody else can get.
Yeah, that's awesome. And another thing, too, is, you do the hot sheets to check for the status changes on stuff you made an offer for that you didn't get right away. And another thing you can do is exactly why I created the software that I use, which is REI Mobile. You can find it at reimobile.com. And I set up the follow-ups in there for the certain amount of days after my offer, so that because what you want to do is hit them right before they're going to make that status change on there, a price change, so that you hit them right when they're talking about it, but before they do it and everybody else is starting to make offers again on it and following up with them. So something you can do. We're running out of time here, though, and you said that you had something that you wanted to give to the audience.
Yeah, no, we're going to put a link below this. I think you said it's where we'll be able to do it. And it's a link to the report I wrote about 12 ways to dominate the MLS in any market, right? So any market that has an MLS, this stuff uses. Like what I teach, there's not a software to it. This is kind of like the art of the deal for the MLS. It's how to work the deal as a real estate investor for the MLS, and that's what that's what they cover that's what I cover rather in that ebook. So it's 12 ways to dominate the MLS in any market with an MLS. So this stuff works anywhere, because that's the biggest question I get to about will this work in my market? I find that people are trying to talk themselves out of being successful, right? They want it to fail, so they'd be like, that doesn't work here, this doesn't work, nothing works here, direct mail doesn't work here, bandit signs don't work here. MLS, they're like, maybe real estate investing's not for you if it doesn't work in your market, but guess what? It all does. That stuff works everywhere. Direct mail works. Bandit signs work. MLS stuff works. All the deal sources that you have heard about in real estate investing, they all work. It's just a matter of mastering one of them before you move on to another one. Get really good at a deal source. And the MLS should absolutely be one of your deal sources if you're a serious real estate investor, because there's guys all over the country that are making millions of dollars from deals off the MLS. Not off one deal, obviously, but guys that are doing several deals are making lots of money from MLS deals. So it should be one of the tools in your tool belt without question if you're a serious real estate investor.
Right, and that'll be the link for that will be on the show notes page at flippingjunkie.com/47. So flippingjunkie.com/47. You'll get a link to that. Get that 12 ways to dominate the MLS anywhere. That was the name of it, right?
Yeah, 12 ways to dominate the MLS in any market.
Any market, yeah. And that's so that'll be there for you free, and you can get that now. So head over to flippingjunkie.com/47. You'll be able to get that. And hey, Jim, thanks so much for being on the show. And if people want to find you, is there a place that people can go to get in touch
Absolutely,
with you?
yeah. My website, you can go to www.realestateinvestoracademy.com.
All right, great. Well, thanks again,
Jim.
Jim.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, have a good one. All right, guys, another great episode. Be sure to go to flippingjunkie.com/47 to get the download of 12 ways to dominate the MLS, no matter what market. And, Jim really knows his stuff. And like he said, there's a lot of stuff in the middle. When he got started, he lost money on that first deal because he didn't understand all of the things in the middle from the buy to the sell and, and how to buy. So, his guide is free, and it's going to show you a lot of the stuff that's in between. It doesn't hurt to go ahead and get that and add that to your stash of swipe stuff that you got for education and finding and getting a lot of deals for your flips. So hope you guys have a great week. We'll have another great episode next week. And, of course, be sure to go to leadpropeller.com and reimobile.com. Check out what we're offering there. Got a lot of cool stuff happening with it, so just check it out. All right, thank you very much.